The thing that annoys me more than anything about the Young Turks is that they live in a bubble. They believe that we all know their policy preferences are objectively better, and that anyone who disagrees with them is simply not an honest actor. They truly believe that all of their detractors are bought off in some way.
Do you really believe these things, Dinesh? Or are you trying to get paid by right-wing guys who are paying you to say this nonsense?
Given that their policy preferences are frequently not realized, they've concluded that there's something illegitimate about the process. This is why they rant and rave about money in politics.
Look at what they did. They wrote in bribery into the Constitution with these justices that they bought, through the politicians that they bought. So come and join us, wolf-pack.com. We're not the group that stands by and lets them do this. Okay, we're the ones that are going to get their money, all their money, out of politics. And we're going to make sure that the politicians represent us, the actual American people.
It simply must be the case that greedy billionaires have colluded. Otherwise, we would live in precisely the sort of country that Cenk Uygur wants. Except when you watch TYT long enough, and when you do just a little bit of research yourself, you begin to realize that their definition of a rigged system is simply a system that produces results they don't like. In other words, their complaints about process have nothing to do with process itself. It's simply about outcomes. When they get what they want, the process is perfectly legitimate.
First, let me give you the good news. Democracy is alive at the state level.
When things don't go their way, they cry sabotage.
This isn't a fucking democracy! You sons of bitch, corrupt assholes!
A perfect example of this is their take on guns. They're convinced that we don't have more gun control because the National Rifle Association bribes politicians. Every time there's a mass shooting in this country, they bring up opinion polls and argue that the American people largely favor more regulations.
But we don't have a democracy. We have politicians who are systemically corrupt. They're all bought, they're bribed, every single one of them. They're bribed by the NRA. So they go, I don't care how many of your kids die. I don't care how many of the citizens die. I don't represent them. I represent the people who write the checks. NRA writes my checks. Screw you and the citizens. I'm going to let the terrorists rampage throughout the country. That's what we have now. This is not a democracy. God damn it, the federal background checks over 90% of the country. What does it take?
They go on to assume that these proposals have not become laws because the NRA throws around a lot of cash. The problem is, in the grand scheme of things, the NRA doesn't donate that much money. According to OpenSecrets.org, the NRA donated just over $1 million in the 2016 election cycle, putting them at 461st in that respective category. This is nothing compared to what labor unions or groups like the Chamber of Commerce donated. Groups, it should be noted, that are nowhere near as successful as the NRA in achieving their objectives. Even when it comes to the specific issue of gun control, the NRA is typically on the wrong side of the money ledger. My favorite example of this was in the Virginia State Senate races of 2015. In 2013, Virginia's would-be governor, Terry McAuliffe, campaigned on passing gun control. While McAuliffe won his race, the state Senate remained in Republican control. This meant that, in order to go through with the governor's agenda, the Democrats would have to flip 2 seats, and there just so happened to be 2 very vulnerable Republicans the next election cycle. This attracted a great deal of attention and outside money, including from billionaire and gun control advocate Mike Bloomberg, who dropped $2.2 million in advertisements on these races. By comparison, the NRA only spent $110,000. So, who won? Well, both of the pro-Second Amendment senators were reelected, and meaningful gun control never passed in Virginia, so money doesn't appear to be that big of a factor. What then can we say moves the needle on gun issues? I believe it's the voters. How can this be when so many gun control measures poll so well?
This isn't a fucking democracy!
Well, the fact is polls don't necessarily mean anything. While they might be good at tracking public opinion in general, they don't necessarily tell you what people actually care about. It doesn't matter if something polls 90-10. If the 10% minority are the only ones who vote on that issue, then the Democratic spoils will go to them. This is exactly the case with gun control. Only the people who oppose it will ever vote on that issue. While the majority of people may tell pollsters that they favor more rules, when they go to the ballot box, they have other priorities. There simply is no constituency for gun control.
The problem is not, I don't blame, and obviously I'm a professional Democrat. I don't blame the Republicans. Right. I don't blame the NRA. I blame the American people. I helped Bill Clinton pass the Brady bill. The next election, we lost 56 House seats. And by one analysis, 19 of them were only because of gun control. Okay, 19 people lost their careers to pass the Brady bill.
I'll give you.
How many lost their seats after Sandy Hook?
Wait.
0. The Republicans won a landslide after they killed President Obama's Sandy Hook gun control bill. That's the fault of the American people for voting these clowns back in.
I'll give you a 20th, though. Al Gore, in 2000, may have lost the presidency because of the gun issue. Al Gore in 2000 lost his home state of Tennessee.
He did. I mean,
That was probably because of guns.
This leaves a very clear set of incentives if you're a politician. Assuming the politicians only care about being reelected, which is cynical but probably true, then there's no real incentive for you to pursue gun control because there's no political capital to be gained in doing so. In fact, given that there is a contingent of voters who will vehemently oppose any new attempts at regulation, there's only a downside. So the next time you hear TYT bitch about the NRA, be sure to correct them and let them know that their real grievance is with the voters.